What bitches you fuck with, I don't understand. I took 35 with me in a rubber band. Bam. My girl always going through my phone, got a nigga mad. I already knew I had her off top with the double glance. Got me jumping over linebackers like a nigga can.
European Masters Week. So there's that. I'm sure you guys are so excited to not have PGA golf this week, but we've got the European Masters. DraftKings contests aren't bad. Obviously, FanDuel doesn't have Euro golf, but we'll make do. Try not to lose all your money on baseball. I can't figure that shit out. But so we got some European Masters action, and at the end I'll go over a little MMA action that's coming this weekend. I listened to podcasts for it, and you know, people that know what they're talking about. Last week, a lot of them only had 1 or 2 losses on a 13 or 12 fight card. So, you know, if you play those 2 fights different ways in multiple lineups and hit the guys at the top that get finishes, you're gonna be at the top. So, you know, MMA is not too difficult to figure out sometimes. I think it's probably more profitable to bet it. But you know, if you hit big in these DFS contests, your ROI is going to be bigger than if you're betting. So, but anyway, we'll get into the European Masters. It's tough with European Tour site. They changed their site. They took the stats down for a while, and then put them back up. So, but they only started, I think, taking the stats after, you know, some of these tournaments that these guys last played like 3 weeks ago. So a lot of these, I mean, so these greens and regulations, scrambling stats, that's going to be the most important thing on this course. From what I've read, they're very hard to hit greens. Balls are going to run off of them. They're an upturned saucer shape. I keep hearing that phrase. So, you know, basically ball's going to roll off the green. You got to get up and down, and, you know, that's going to separate, you know, the best from the rest here. So guys that are really bad at scrambling, I'm not going to be on so much, you know, just recent scrambling form. But obviously if you're hitting a ton of greens, you don't really have to worry about scrambling. So, and then again with Euro Tour, like, I'll play a cash lineup this week, but, you know, I don't want to get too crazy with things. You know, all of these guys are good enough that they can go compete with like an Alex Noren or a Tommy Fleetwood. There's not that big of a difference between, I don't think, like a Jordan Smith and a Matthew Fitzpatrick at this stage. It's just that we've seen more of Fitzpatrick on the U.S. stage, so, you know, we think of him as a, you know, class player. But yeah, so we'll get into it here. Let me pull up DK real quick. We'll see what... I'm just going to do this to get the form up for a lot of these guys. Because a lot of them, we're not going to have... Why does it do that? That's a big pain in the ass. DK, what are you doing? That'll work. Yeah, we'll do this. We got the 3-screen setup going today. And I got my coffee in the afternoon, so it's a good day. But at the top, Alex Noren, 11-7. Just got married on the weekend, so if you want to play that narrative, you can either play it that he's going to go out there and he's happy-go-lucky guy, he's going to go win, as he has twice before here. Or you could play the narrative that he's probably hungover as fuck and hasn't been playing much golf lately. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know with this guy. Hasn't been playing too well recently, as you can see. Won't even give me the game log. The fuck? God damn you, DraftKings. not very friendly. There, give me the game. I mean, yeah, 6th at the Open is great, 28th at the Bridgestone, and then 67th at the PGA. But the PGA is an American major, and he's never really played well in those. Before that, 10th in France, 15th first, 10th in the Players. He was playing really well. Just hasn't been playing much recently after the PGA, and I mean, if he wins, you need him. So I'll probably play him on some GPP lineups. I just like a lot of equity down in this 99,000 range, more for the price. But that said, Noren is the best player in the field, and he's the only guy with, well, not the only guy. There's another guy with 2 wins here, but Noren does have 2 wins here, and that's, nice to see. 2 wins, a 9th, a 27th, and a missed cut in his last 5 times here. Won last year, so he's the favorite for a reason, and I think you play him in GPPs. In cash games, I don't know if I want to pay that much for a guy that I don't know if he's been playing that much golf. So that's my take on him. Fleetwood. He really peaked around the Open. Just that little time before that, he was on fire. 4th, 6th, 1st, 10th, 27th, 28th. And then a 61st at the PGA. That's all right. No rounds in the 60s, though. That you don't want to see that, especially on the weekend when guys were going low. We have to remember that with the PGA. Like, it's kind of a birdie fest toward the end, especially on Sunday. A lot of guys were in the 65 range, so 74 not ideal. You don't want to see that. Course history here: 49th last year, miscut 5-9 at 19th. That's good. But again, I don't really find myself needing to pay up for Fleetwood this week. If I'm paying up for Fleetwood, I'd rather just play up for Noren due to his pedigree here, and potential good vibes going on in his camp. Fitzpatrick's been pretty just gross lately. I mean, what has he done? 54th cut, 50th, 44th cut, 54th cut, back to the U.S. Open, and then he was already playing well coming into the U.S. Open. So it's not surprising that he did well there. Without that 76 on Sunday, he would have been really up there. But yeah, I mean, no better than 44th in these last tournaments. And then, like, the Czech Masters, like, that's not a difficult tournament. Come on, man. So, for me, I'm just going to fade Fitzpatrick and hope he doesn't just find something on this course. He had good history at the Czech last week, if I'm not mistaken, and didn't do well there. So there's no reason for me to think that he's going to turn it around this week magically. I'd rather just go with Wiesberger for cheaper, 9,900, who's been super consistent all year, only 1 miscut, and that was the PGA. So his last time out was a miscut, but he's never really played well at the PGA for whatever reason. He's never really played well in U.S. majors, besides the Masters, where he has a decent record, make some cuts there. But 41st, 74th at the Open, I wasn't really on him there. 51st, 27th. He was another guy that was playing really well around the time of the U.S. Open, just finishing top 30 pretty much every time out. And a little fall off lately, but when you come into this kind of field, it's not the PGA Championship, it's not the Bridgestone, it's not the Open. It's the European Masters, which, despite the title, is not it's not really the Masters at all. So there's that. But if I'm taking a guy in this 9-10K range, I like Wiesberger a lot. He has a good record here. It's kind of decreased over the years, but he's not going to miss the cut. I just don't know about the upside. A little worrisome, but if you're landing on that range as your last guy, I don't see any problem with that. I'd rather play him over Fitz. And, in this top 4 range, I'd rather play just Noren. But 11.7 is a steep price tag, like I've said. I really like Lee Westwood this week. Lee Westwood coming off of a very good finish at the Czech Masters in 9th place. Hasn't been missing cuts either, which I'd like to see. 27th at the Open, 67th at the PGA. I mean, he made the cut there. That's good, Consistent guy, 9th last week. That's good to see. And he has a very good record here, never missed the cut, and he has 3 top 10s, no worse than 37th. I'd pick Westwood to top 10 again this week. I really like Lee Westwood at 9,700. Alexander Levy at 96. Really good player, but just kind of on and off. He's a very on-off guy lately. Missed the cut at the Open and the PGA, but second at the Porsche European Open in Germany. That's solid, but 3 missed cuts in an 18th here. I don't really know what I'm going to get out of this guy this week, and I don't really see myself needing to take the shot on him to have a bounce-back week off the PGA. Adrian Otaegui hasn't, I think that's how you say it. I'm just going to spitball it. He won the match play after the European Open. So he was in great form coming into that. Is in great form right now. Doesn't really have good history here, but with the form that this guy is in right now, it's been a few weeks since that match play, but he's been playing really, really good golf, and he's someone that's definitely worth taking a shot on. Kind of like Surrey, where a few weeks ago, this guy, I don't think he's as good as, maybe he is as good as some of these guys here at the top, but just really getting the job done and playing really well. So I don't have any problems taking a shot on Otaegui. He's on fire right now, so you play him. Some people don't believe in hot streaks. I believe when you are playing golf well, you tend to keep playing golf well until the wheels fall off. You're going to have one bad round, and then you got to figure things out again. But when you're dialed in, man, you're dialed in. So that's my take on Otaegui. I don't really know how to say his name. Ross Fisher, we know Ross Fisher's a very good player. Just hasn't been really impressing of late, and his record here is questionable at best. So Ross Fisher's all right, but I kind of just want to avoid him this week due to his recent form. Horsey is a guy that hasn't ever really shown up here. He was in competition last week for the win, I believe. Yeah, or 2 weeks ago, made in Denmark. That was when Surrey beat him. But before that, not really any great finishes besides the Lioness, Rocco Forte, and the Hero Indian, but those were all relatively long ago, and he just has no history here. Nothing that makes me think that he's going to turn it around besides that second place, but show me something else. Go do it for me once here, and I'll believe in you. Ironic I say that because I really like Jordan Smith. Only 2 missed cuts all year. 60th last week at the Czech Masters is a concern, but won the European Porsche, 9th at the PGA. Maybe, I don't know what was up with him at the Czech Masters, but Jordan Smith is a class player and should do really well here. I don't see why he wouldn't. So I really like him this week. I also really like Jamie Donaldson. Only 9 of 16 cuts, but he's made the last 2. He's top 25 in both. And he has some good form or good history here with a 3rd, a 9th, and a 7th. When he makes the cut, no worse than 25th. And given his 2 most recent made cuts, I really like him this week. He missed the cut at the Irish and the Scottish. BMW PGA is a strong field, and he wasn't playing well going into it. The Scottish and the Irish are 2 different kind of tests. They're linksy style, and maybe that's not his game. I don't know these guys that well, but I like Donaldson's record here this week. I really like him. I think 50 to 1 is a little strange. So if you're a betting guy, I'd probably throw some cash on that. Ty Hatton, really just been bad lately. I mean, all these missed cuts. 2 third-place finishes here, which is interesting, but he also has a missed cut, and just with how bad he's been lately, he's a GPP play only for me. I just can't trust him with how bad he's been. Ryan Fox, no record here at this tournament, but he's been playing really well. A lot of people were on him at the Open after his hot run of form into it, but he didn't really come through. Fox is a bomber. This is a very short course. Maybe that benefits him. Maybe it doesn't. I don't really know how his short game is. Sorry. I don't have that information. People don't have these stats right now. But Fox is another guy, GPP play only for me. Hayden Porteous, I was on him last week. He won after a 6th place in Denmark. You can play the winner hangover narrative with this guy. I think it may be one of his first wins on the Europe Tour, but you can see he's inconsistent, and it's the most upside he's shown all year. He has a miscut here, actually, but yeah, I mean, he's been playing really well, but I just don't know, coming off of a win, what you're going to get out of him. It's tough to say with, these young guys that grab their wins. But Paul Dunn, another young guy on tour, former amateur, playing well lately, 14th at the main in Denmark, didn't play the Czech Masters, but a miscut here, I don't know what you're going to get out of this guy. I don't really know his record here. I don't know his game. I don't know much about the guy. He's good on links courses, I know that. But, yeah, I don't know what I'm getting out of him this week. At that price tag, I'll probably just stay away. And I'll probably just go with who is going to be the chalk in this range, Richie Ramsay. Richie Ramsay has good odds value, and he has a win here. He has an 8th and a 10th, much like some of these guys like Donaldson. Kind of a mixed bag, but with the way these Euro guys kind of go in and out of form a lot, I really think that Ramsay is playing well right now. This form is good, a 2nd at the Irish, 35th, 22nd, 8th, trending up. Hasn't played in a month, but, was playing well before that month off. I think he played well at the match play, too, if I'm not mistaken. I think he made the semis or the quarters, but still played well, and I like him this week a lot just because of his course history and recent form. He hasn't been missing cuts. I like that. Chris Wood has kind of a average record here, nothing to speak of really. Played well at the PGA and the Open, but he tends to show up in these majors. It's these other tournaments where he just doesn't really do too much for me. Actually the US Open didn't play well, so you'll probably either get like a 35th or a miscut out of Wood. I don't really know what you're going to get out of him, but I'm just not going to go there. Lee Slattery, another guy that I had him and Porteous at the same price, basically, 8K and 79K, right next to each other in some of my lineups. Didn't really know how to choose between them with a lot of these guys. Slattery's in good form, playing really well, and there was a shitty weather day, and he shot a 65. He just played really well. Came up a little short, and I had him or Porteous. I didn't have both, so that hurt. Good afternoon. Cough is way too strong. But Slattery has a mixed bag here as well. 3 missed cuts in his last 5, but also a 9th and a 14th. Given his recent form, he's definitely worth a shot. Not sure about him in cash just because of those missed cuts. Those are scary. But and he kind of lost the tournament, I think, with a 73 on Sunday. But, still no worse than 30th in his last 4 tournaments. I'd be fine with rolling Slattery and some GPPs this week. Surrey, our darling Surrey, he's going to be on the PGA Tour, and he's going to be good. But right now, I mean, no record here, but 16th, 1st, 34th, playing really good golf. I don't see any reason not to be on him this week, but I think, with Slattery's two top 10s here, maybe you take a shot on him over Surrey. But I don't know. I mean, Surrey's a class golfer. We know this. He won 2 weeks ago. Maybe that winning hangover is out of his system. Um, and he can go out there and play really well this week. I'm just not really like that invested with him at 8K. You know, he may be pretty popular, but I'd rather go Ramsey. Just given his record here and the odds on him. So there's that. Robert Rock, I'm just not going to play this week. 10th at the Denmark. But really no high finishes here, so I'm going to fade him. You know, with these guys, a lot of them are going to be upside or bust kind of guys, and I just don't see upside with Rock, given his record here. Hend, second here last year, but you know, cut at the PGA, 24th at the Fiji, which I thought he was going to do much better there. I'm just not really going to be on Hend this week either. Anthony Wall tends. I know last year I was playing him and he was just making all these cuts, but withdrew from the European or the Porsche European. I don't really know what's up with him. Maybe he's injured. Maybe he just wanted to get the fuck out of there. Really good cut making record here, but not too much upside. His best finish was 8th back in like 2007 or something. So 2009, I don't know, but I'm just not going to be on him. Juiced. The Juiced is loose. 2 missed cuts in his last 2. I was playing this guy every week back in this range where he was just 30th, 30th, 30th all the time. And his record here is kind of the same. 2 missed cuts way back when, but 44th, 27th, 15th. Did miss the cut in the last 2 though, which is a little worrisome for me. I'll probably just avoid him again in this price range. 7,700 isn't really a range I find myself falling on. Miguel Angel Jimenez. If you've never seen this guy, I highly recommend looking at some of his pictures. The dude loves a stogie on the course. Old, tubby, Spanish dude. Dad bod to the max. Just awkward, like, blonde, curly ponytail thing. I don't know what is up with his hair. He's old, though, and he's on the senior tour. He's 4th in money on the senior tour. As I call it, the Bernard Langer tour. But he does have a win, a 4th, a 3rd, a 9th, 5th, 11th here. But those came back in the day a little bit. So I don't know what you're going to get out of Miguel Angel Jimenez this week. He's definitely worth a shot, in my opinion, given his record here. You know, we've seen guys like Luke Donald, who are completely out of form, show up at Harbor Town and get second. Zach Johnson was in pretty form going into the John Deere. He showed up and like top 5'd again. That's what he does there. Maybe this event is kind of like that for Miguel. But he did miss a cut after that line of you know, top 10 basically performances. So just given his recent form, you know, he wasn't making the cut at the Lioness and 42nd at the Irish. You know, I'd predict more something along the lines of like a miscut or like a low made cut performance, but I don't really know what you're going to get out of him. It's tough to say. George Cutsey, 18th, 25th, and 3 missed cuts here. Missed 3 cuts in a row. I'm going to be off of him. Chris Paisley played really well last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 3rd place. There were some tippers on him, but record here, 2 missed cuts and a 44th. I'll probably fade. Danny Willett, man, Danny Willett, Masters champion, Danny Willett. Yeah, he's been bad, like really bad all year. Just really bad. That said, his record here is stellar. 12th, 1st, 5th, 26th, 2nd, 25th, 42nd, 23rd. I mean, based off of that history alone, I am interested. I mean, he wasn't good last year either. It wasn't this bad, but he wasn't good. Um, so, you know, it's tough for me to say, but like take a shot maybe. Ugh, he's gross. I don't want to talk about Danny Willett right now. I mean, he's just been so bad. So bad. Dredge screwed me the other week. Some of these guys, man, they've really been screwing me. 38th miscut, last 2 times out. No, he has a win here, but it came way back in the day. Since then, bad record here. So I'm just going to fade Dredge, hope for the best. Tom Lewis has a 15th here and 2 missed cuts, but he's been playing really well. You know, a bunch of made cuts leading up to a 3rd place at the Czech Masters last week. I was on him then, and I think he's another good play this week. He's been hitting a lot of greens recently. Scrambling leaves something to be desired, but I like Tom Lewis this week at 7,500. I like him. I don't mind Richard Bland. Dick Bland. I don't mind him. Missed the cut in Denmark, though, which is a concern. You know, a lot of missed cuts here that weren't at links courses. A little worrisome for me. Record here, not great. So I think if I had to pick one of these guys, it would probably be Lewis. Bland did finish 5th last year, but I also remember him being in good form last year. Kind of around the time of when this tournament would have been. So I don't really know what to do with him, but I probably would take Lewis over him. Pablo, don't say Larrazabal. It's Larafable? Larrazabal? It's not Larrazabal. 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 He's been bad recently, and I'm not going to play him. 6 missed cuts here? No thanks. Bjork. Everyone's darling. He's been making a lot of cuts on the Euro Tour. Let's say that. But recently, making cuts, not really doing too much. 25th, 30th, you know, that's good. Never played this course before, but he's been really good scrambling, which is something I like to see. He's been hitting some greens too. I like Bjork in this range. I also like our boy Fratelli. Fratelli was a money printing machine earlier in the year. This was before he won the line. This is before May. Back in like April, March, he was a money printer. Went on a bad run. A lot of miscuts here. These were stronger fields, more difficult tournaments. Rounded back into form. Made the cut at the PGA. He was hanging around the leaderboard early on Thursday. 25th at the Czech Masters. That's good to see. No record here, but Fratelli's a very good player, and you know, I'm fine with playing Fratelli here. My order in this is the range where you're going to find a lot of guys that you're landing on this range. So my order would be probably Lewis, Bjork, Fratelli, Bland. Larafable's a total fade. Bland, I'm just off of him due to his record here. Lewis has a mixed bag here, but a 15th. Bjork, no record here. Fratelli, no record here. But I think Bjork and Fratelli are really good players, so I like that too. Detry, I was on Detry last week, I skipped Thongchai. Hope you don't think that's racist. Thongchai, JD. He shows up every year at the Open, which is really interesting. I want to keep that in mind for next year. He was in real shit form coming in, too. Just shows up every year at the Open. I don't get it. Every year he's like 30th at the Open. But anyway, I'm going to be back off Thongchai this week. You know, a 9th and a 5th here. That's good, but he just hasn't been showing me anything, really. So, you know, maybe he comes out and proves me wrong. Top 30s like he does, but I don't know. Detry, I was on him last week. He had a really good record at the Czech Masters, and just didn't really do too much. 54th. I mean, he made the cut, but like didn't really do too much. So I'm probably just gonna fade him. for a guy like Fratelli, I think has more upside. Rickard Karlberg, decent player, very boomer bust kind of guy. I'm going to be off of him this week despite his good record here. I mean, all these guys with good records here, just mix and match. Like, if they come here and do what they've done here in the past, you're going to be fine. But if they play like they have been recently, probably not going to be fine. So, as with every Euro Tour guy, I just don't trust them much. Benjamin Hebert, that's how you say that. Hitting greens, not really great at scrambling, and hasn't shown too much upside outside of his 6th in Denmark. So given his mixed record here, no upside here that he's shown, I'm going to fade him. Renato Parator is a good player. Screwed everyone in Denmark by withdrawing after the cut. Just hasn't shown us much lately. I'm going to be off of him despite a 7th and a 24th here recently. You can take a shot given that history, but I'll kind of fade him. Zanotti, fade. Oliver Fischer has some good results here, but let's look at what he's done recently. Nothing major. So I'll probably pass on him to Victor Dubuisson. Very talented player, but hasn't shown much recently. He's either getting cut or finishing like 30th, and you know, I don't really want to take that risk when he's either pretty much gotten cut or finished 30th outside of a third here, but just not going to be on him at that price. I'm just not a big fan of taking that shot. Nacho Elvira, 2 good performances the last 2 times out. You know, you can take a shot on him. I wouldn't hate that. Carlson, probably not going to play him. Gregory Havre. No top 10s really recently at all. Probably just going to avoid him. Lagergren, going to fade him. I don't think he's done much recently. Nope. Lagergren's an easy fade. Stern, I was on Stern in Denmark. He played well the 2nd round at least, which is nice to see. He has a good record here, so I think you can go back to the well with him. I don't think he's too out of form. I mean, that one bad round is not great to see, but it, you know, if he shot, I don't know what happened that round. You know, 3 double bogeys, 1 worse. Just a really bad round, but a 69 on Friday is good. You know, I don't hate to see that. And 3 top 30s coming into that at, you know, much stronger field events. So, I think you can go back to the well with Stern this week. Shinkwin is going to be a fade for me. He's not playing well right now. Luke Donald, another fade for me, who's not playing well right now. Mike Lorenzo Vera is probably my favorite play in the low 7Ks. Very good record here and a finished 9th last week. Really like to see that. So I'm going to be on him this week. Scrambling high. Scrambling has been good. Lipsky has a win here. I think he won here when he was like 250 to 1. He got pissed off at the weather last week and just like signed an incorrect scorecard and just got the fuck out of there. So, you know, whatever, man. I was on him heavy last week. He kind of screwed me. Him and Stern, or him and, I forget who the other guy. I think it was Evans that missed the cut or just sucked on the weekend. But yeah, Lipsky really cost me last week. I mean, he was chalky, but it was Stern. It was Stern and Lipsky. I think those were the guys. Dot has one good performance here. Everything else has been pretty bad. I'm gonna fade him though. Just he's good recent form, not great. You know, he played well at the Scottish leading up to the Open. That kind of propelled him there. But then, you know, 35th Fiji and mixed bag record here. I'm gonna fade him for Lorenzo Vera. Brandon Stone, good player. Hasn't been showing too much recently, I don't think. Yeah, so I'm going to be off of him. Campillo. Campillo, 3 miscuts here. I'm going to fade him too. Kiefer, he's been alright here. Decent form recently. I'm going to fade him. Fritch, 2 7th place performances here, which is really good to see. But I think he too withdrew at the Czech Masters or signed an incorrect scorecard. I don't really know what happened with him, but nothing to show really recently. And he's a guy that had some really good past results at other tournaments throughout the years, and I've been fading him pretty much all year, so I'm going to just keep doing that. Steven Gallagher, good player, and he's had some decent results recently, and he has some good results here. I mean, you can sprinkle this guy in some lineups too. I don't hate that. Peterson won at the Denmark, I believe, last year, and then finished 58th here. So, like you can see with these guys, that form is fickle. 44th, 18th recently, though. I don't hate that. It's just that he hasn't shown me anything here when he's come in really good form. So, to me, it's kind of a fade, and hope that he doesn't burn me. This Wattel guy has 2 top 10s here, 2 miscuts. I think he missed the cut this year. Nothing to show really recently. Rithammer, good scrambler, hasn't been hitting greens, but he has 2 good performances recently. So you can take a shot on him as kind of a form play. I wouldn't hate that. So Rithammer's in play, I think, as a really low-owned guy. I mean, anyone that, like, I think Lorenzo Vera might be a little popular. Lipsky might be a little, people will fade him after he burned everyone. Gallagher should be popular, just given his name. Stern might be popular, given his odds. Shinkwin is probably not going to be popular. Dubuisson is GPP. Fratelli will be popular. Detry, I don't know. I'll change those. Tom Lewis might be a little chalky. I don't know. Bland, I hope people play, and I hope he sucks. Danny Willett, I don't know, man. People know how bad he's been. Like, it's going to be really hard to put any trust in Danny Willett. But moving back down to Rithammer, Sam Brazel, yeah, miscut here. Gonna fade him. James Morrison has been a good player all year, pretty much. Finished 5th at the Czech Masters after making 2 cuts in a row. Given his record here, 18th, 25th his last 2 times out. 4 miscuts, but I think he's kind of rounded into a player recently. So I like Morrison a lot at 7,100. I think if you start a lineup like Morrison, Lorenzo Vera, one of these top 7K guys, or, Lorenzo Vera, Morrison, Surrey, Slattery, Ramsey, one of the top guys, or just 2 of those 8K guys and then 2 9K guys. You can make some really good lineups that way, lineups that I'm really comfortable with. So I like Morrison this week. Jazz, Jano Watanand. Nailed it. Nailed it. Second at the Fiji, cool, but not really been shown too much all year. And does he have a record here? Let's go check out Jazz. I think I have him down as just Jazz. I do. 37th in a miscut. You can play him, but I trust Morrison way more. Matteo Manacero, the man-ass himself. 9th at the Czech Masters, good to see. Hitting a lot of greens, but the scrambling is bad, and I think that's going to hurt him here if he's not hitting all those greens. So you can take a shot on him. I wouldn't hate it, given his 9th last week and his 3rd place finish here. But he's kind of trailed off over the years here, so I don't really know what to make of him, but you can take a shot. Oh, excuse me. Ramen, bad record here. I'm going to fade him. Lasse Jensen, I'm going to fade him too. Ashun Wu is a guy that I've seen a lot of people talking about betting just because 200 to 1 apparently is crazy for him and should be lower than that. So I don't really know. Good performance at the Made in Denmark, but I don't really see too much here that would make me say that Ashun Wu is like gonna go win this week. Is it possible? Sure. The part of the narrative is that he won in Austria last year or something, and that was like his maiden win, so they think he's going to play really well this week. I don't buy into that at all. I'd rather buy into like Noren's wedding narrative. But yeah, whatever you want, whatever makes you comfortable playing a guy. Kong Wat Mai, dude that just boned me at the Indian Open. I mean, 83 and 80 plus 19 over 2 rounds. That was bad. That was really bad. He was in hot form coming in, too, on the Asian Tour or the Challenge Tour, whichever one he was playing. But, yeah, that sucked. That hurt. Played well at the Fiji, but that's kind of where these Asian guys tend to play really well. So I'm going to be off him. Marcel Siem has some good performances here, but so a 10th at the Made in Denmark, and then a whole bunch of miscuts. 8th, 27th, 8th. Whole bunch of miscuts. So, I don't know what you're going to get out of this guy. 80 to 1 seems a little crazy. But, he's worth a shot just because he's shown upside here in the past, and he came to play last time out. Ormsby was playing really well, and then he missed the cut at the Czech Masters. I'm going to be off of him. Matthew Pavone is a really good young player out of France, but I'm going to be off of him as well. Rumford, really good record here, surprisingly. He has a win here, but he's been really bad this year, and I'm just going to be off of him too. This Andres Gonzalez, or Ricardo Gonzalez? Ricardo Gonzalez. I'm going to be off of him. He played well at the Czech Masters, but very mixed bag here. I can't trust him. Afa Barnrat, not really a great record here, and he's been pretty bad recently, so I'm going to fade him also. He might get some ownership down here, but I hope he doesn't burn me. Drysdale has a good record here. Let's see what he's done recently. Nothing too major. Irish Open good. The Open was good, but he's a link style kind of player, and so I'm not surprised he did well at the Open. Made in Denmark, though, not really showing up there, so that kind of worried me. Scrivener, really good short game guy, good putter. 5th last week, so maybe he shows up this week. I won't be on him. I trust Morrison to make the cut more, but Scrivener's in play. He just hasn't been hitting greens, which worries me a little bit. Mikko Ilonen? Mikko Ilonen? 8th at the European Open, good to see. And he has some good performances here. 9th, 7th, and 12th last year. He's another guy that I just don't trust enough for a cash game, but I think you could play him in GPPs given his record here. Graham Storm, another guy with a good record here that's been playing really badly. So, I don't know what you want to do with him. Yeah, up to you. I don't really hate him, but I have a hard time trusting him. Julian Kane? Duquesne is Duquesne University. I went to school in Pittsburgh. I know that. I don't know if this is Quizne? Kane? I don't know. But he's been bad recently too. So I'm going to fade him and hope that he doesn't show up here as he has in the past. Lucas Gerrard, bomber, playing kind of well recently. I wouldn't hate it if you played him, but he has a bad short game, and I think that's going to hurt him here. I wouldn't, I don't mind if you take the shot on him, but I'd rather take Nino Bertasio. 14th last week, and 29th and a 38th here in the past. I know a lot of people are on him to do well this week at his odds of 175 to 1. I think it's more of a value thing. I think people think he should be around probably 100 to 1, 125 to 1. But, I mean, so there's a story to this guy, and I know this. He's half Italian and he's half Swiss. Now, his performances in Italy have not been good. But he grew up in, I think, like Zurich or Luzerne, one of the two. But, yeah, his performances in Italy have been bad, but his performances in Switzerland have all been good. And I kind of like him this week as a play at 6,900, kind of if you end up on him, if you want to go a 2v2 like Morrison and Surrey, and then like Ramsey and Bertasio. You could do that, and I wouldn't hate either pairing. I'm probably just gonna bomb into the quarter arcade this week and have fun with it. I don't really want to put too much money on this. I'll probably play one cash lineup too, but that's kind of my take on that this week. Goivea, not going to be playing him. De La Riva, not playing him. Some people are on Chaurasia after a good performance in Denmark, and he's been making cuts in a lot of these non-links events. You know, the Scottish and the Irish, to me, are a little different beasts. But I wouldn't hate taking a shot on Chaurasia this week. He's also really good odds value at 250 to 1. Shown up here in the past, and he's probably been playing worse coming in the event. So I don't mind him this week. Norris is a guy that he won the Fiji, which is interesting. I'll probably fade him, though. I don't really know what to make of this guy. He hasn't really shown up outside of these Australian and Asian events, so this might be one of his first times in a European event, and I don't really know where he fits into things. Poom! 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 I don't know what to do with this guy. Probably just not going to play. Walters, not playing him. Pigum, not playing him. Luca Cianchetti, not playing him. Sinat, not playing him. Choi Prakong, not playing him. I'm nailing these names, by the way. You guys should be impressed. Here's a guy I need to talk about, Burmester. He burned me at the... He didn't burn me. 14th at the Czech Masters means he's playing well, and he is 90 to 1 and 6,800. Like, let's be honest. You're probably playing Burmester this week. I'm playing Burmester in cash probably if I want to go, you know, Burmester Morrison, Lorenzo Vera, Burmester Lorenzo Vera. Those kinds of like 3-man, 2-man pairings down in this low 7K range I really like for safety and allow me to get like an Alexander Noren in there. And I think that's a strong starting 4 if you go like Lorenzo Vera, Burmester, Noren, and like Morrison. I think you were in a really good strong spot there. So I like that play a lot. Peter Hansen has not really... yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on Burmester. He's way too good to be this price. He's going to be chalky as hell. Peter Hansen hasn't been playing well recently. Hasn't really shown too much at this course. Boom. Done. Gregory Bordy. Shown some finishes at this course. Been playing all right recently. Hitting greens and scrambling well. But I'm just going to fade him. I like Burmester more. Makes Bordy a good GBP play, but he hasn't shown up here before. Pontus Widegren is a guy I want to talk about. Really in good form right now. Really interesting play down here, considering he's never played this course. He's been scrambling well. I'm going to have some Widegren at 6,700 for sure. I really like that play if you're going down from Burmester. Widegren will have lower ownership and I think has the same kind of upside as a Burmester at much lower ownership. So Widegren is kind of one of my sleepers this week. Scott Jameson is a good player, but he's been playing really poorly recently, so I'm going to be off of him. And yeah, Jameson has some good finishes here. Thomas Bjorn has 2 wins here, which is really interesting. But he's kind of an older guy. You know, he could do well this week, but I'm just not going to bank on it. Eduardo Molinari has pretty much never missed a cut here in recent memory. But he's just been bad recently. He's not his brother, that's for sure. Although his brother's been fucking me lately, too, so there's that. Daniel M., good cut maker. That's kind of all I have to say about him. He hung around with John Rahm at the Irish, which was interesting. He just makes cuts. 49, 38 last 2 weeks. Little trending up there. You know, if you're looking for a made cut at 6,600, I like him, but I think I like Widegren for upside more, given Widegren's recent performances. He's just been a little better recently, and, you know, Im's been all right, but I like Widegren a lot with his recent performances. And, like, the Porsche European Open, another tougher tournament. You know, he's priced, they keep pricing him in the 60-something hundred range. It's not like this guy is, it's not like he got kind of priced down for no reason and he'll be popular. He's been in this 6K range, and he's been crushing. So I'm going to play him this week, too. And that's all I've got, really, this week. So, best of luck. Oh, and I'm going to do the little MMA action quick while I can. So, I have a spreadsheet here for MMA. Not all the props are out yet. They might be, but I didn't get to update it. But so this column I here is a site called Bet MMA Tips, betmma.tips. And it shows you, it's if you can imagine this for golf, it's like if you had, you know, how these guys on Twitter put out their golf cards, like Wiley and Baraf and Mike Miller, Smart Golf Bets. They put out their golf betting card for the week, right? Bet MMA Tips is basically that, but for MMA, and it shows you, like, if you looked at, like, Wiley and Pat Mayo's, like, overall ROI and, like, the bets they hit, it shows you all of that. It tracks all of that. It's a really, really good system. I'm not sure if there is one for golf, but you get to see, like, which guys are profiting the most, which guys are not. And you can see, like, which guys are profiting the most, and they have all these fights laid out, and you can see who's putting how many units on which guys and which fights and which parlays and which props. And that is super helpful for DraftKings, because if you've got a guy that everyone is picking as part of a parlay, but he's only like 8,600, or, you know, or he's in the lower 9K range, and people are betting him to finish. You know, you're really getting a good idea of where sharper people than you, probably, I don't know you, I don't mean to judge you, but you're getting a good idea of where these guys are going. All of these in J and over are shows that I watch on MMA on YouTube. Will Martin MMA, great guy, really fun to listen to, knows what he's talking about. He's on Bet MMA Tips. MMA God, he's on there as well. He breaks down fights as well. Half the Battle, great podcast, really fun to listen to. But they're on Bet MMA Tips. Sebs is on Bet MMA Tips. And this is kind of my DK take based on what their takes are. So, given some of these odds, Demetrius Johnson, one of the best fighters, pound for pound in the world. He's almost minus 1,000 to win this week. He's a 5-round fight. Top of the salary, but he probably scores like 120 points, and you'll probably want him in your lineups. The only issue is price, but he probably gets a submission. He probably lands a lot of takedowns, scrambles against Ray Borg. It's going to be a good fight, but I think you want DJ in your lineups. The other DJ, not the golf DJ. Not at the European Masters. Henry Cejudo, some people have to win by decision. Some people have to win by TKO. A lot of the tips have him to win by decision. The fight is favored to go to decision, so I'd probably fade him this week. I think he's going to be... DK scoring isn't very conducive to a fight like what they're predicting for him. So Adriano Martins, people are on a lot, but they're not really sure how he's going to get the job done. I like him this week. Sarah McMahon has a good fight against a very young, inexperienced girl. I think she's a lock to win. I just don't know how. And then 8,800 Mitch Clark is a fade because nobody is on him. He's basically in a pick'em fight against this guy who's 7,400, Alex White. And everyone is betting him to win still on these sites. So I like Alex. He's basically a lock in your core at 7,400 in cash, just because, you know, if these people are right on him, they're betting him, and he's this price, you're going to need him. And people are not dumb. They're going to know to play him this week. Ashley Evans-Smith, easy fade. Women's fights just tend not to score highly. You know, she might score a decision win. She'll probably score like 65 to 70 DK points. That's not enough. You're going to need 100 from pretty much every one of your guys, unless, you know, it's like last week where all the favorites win. RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, favored to win here over Neil Magny. Fight is not favored to end in the distance. It's very likely to go to decision, and I think that is what will happen. So I'm not really on Dos Anjos this week. This Latifi and Tyson Pedro fight very likely ends in round 1 or 2. And what you want to do with MMA is, you know, you're going to play a lot of lineups that have either Latifi or Pedro. And you got to mix things up. You got to give yourself the best chance to get that top prize. And, you know, some of these fights are really hard to predict, and this is one of them. There are guys going both ways on this fight. It's tough to say who's going to win. So you want exposure to both sides. You kind of want to hedge yourself in GPPs. In cash, you probably want to avoid it, because it's very likely that one of these guys scores like 5 or 10 points, and the other scores 100 and some points. So from that perspective, you probably want to avoid it in cash. That's just my take. Gavin Tucker, favored here over Rick Glenn. I'm not sure how this fight is favored to end, but people are picking him by decision. I think he's a good cash play because of his price and kind of the surety that people have in him. Luis Henrique, people are not very on. They are favoring the newcomer, Arjan Bular. You know, people have said it's hard to find tape on him, and there haven't been too many bets coming in on this fight, probably because of that. People want to put their money where they can predict things are going to happen. So I like that. Bular play too. I mean, people don't see Henrique knocking him out, so that's a good play as a favorite, actually. So yeah, you're gonna want the odds value on Bular and White in your cash lineup, I think, this week. Jeremy Stephens and Gilbert Melendez, that fight is an interesting fight. Stephens known for knockout power, but he's been losing a lot of fights recently. And Melendez can probably pull out a decision here, a lot of people think. So this fight's favored to go to decision, which means that either Stephens won't be able to put him out, but will get the decision, or that Melendez gets the decision. That makes Stephens probably a good GPP play, potentially a good cash play, but this Shevchenko-Nunez fight is going to be the better cash target because it's supposed to go 5 rounds. It's a 5-round fight. And basically either Nunez wins early or people are picking her to gas out. And a lot of people are on Shevchenko. These two women have fought before, went to 3 rounds. Shevchenko got the shit kicked out of her in rounds 1 and 2, basically. Bloodied up, gross looking. Nunez took it to her. Nunez gassed out in the 3rd round. What happened? Shevchenko, beat up as she was, took it to her in the 3rd round. And, you know, if Shevchenko made one of those other rounds close, this would have been a much tougher decision for these judges. And a lot of people are on Shevchenko here in this fight to close her out in the 4th or 5th round. I think that's what happens. That means Shevchenko scores a lot of points. Now, you could take a hedge approach here in this fight and take both fighters in a cash lineup. The problem with that approach to me is that, you know, if Nunez, I think you can get a win from a guy like Bular or a decision loss just as easily as Nunez goes 3 rounds and loses. So, you know, what do you want out of these guys? It's going to be tough to say, but I like Shevchenko in that fight, just trailing the people that are putting the money on it, you know? And people are putting big bets on Shevchenko. She's the challenger. She's hungry. So I think a lineup starting Shevchenko, Bular, Alex White in cash is the way to go this week. And you probably want to try to fit DJ up there at the top. And then you want to go with like a Dos Anjos or a Martins or a McMahon, kind of one of these lock plays that people are on. And save your Latifi, your Tyson Pedro. You could go Gavin Tucker in cash if you need to get to DJ. That's kind of my take on MMA this week, and best of luck to you. Best of luck to you. I highly recommend watching these fights. It's going to be fun, and I'll see you next week.